Let us now derive the form ushitva from the verbal root vas, which is vasa nivase, from the bhvadiganaha. This form occurs in the Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse in chapter 6. Prapya punyakritan lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatangehe yoga bhrashto bhijayate. Ushitva is derived by adding the affix tva to the verbal root vasa nivase. To derive this form, we are going to need two more rules from the Ashtadhyayi. The first one, which we'll take now, is 7 to 52. Looking at the number of this sutram itself, we can tell what the topic here is, because we are very familiar with the section which runs from 7 to 35, ardhadhatukasye valadehe, which is the pivotal sutram here. Anuvritti of ardhadhatukasya goes down from 7 to 35 all the way to 7 to 75, and the anuvritti of idvaladehe goes down from 7 to 35 all the way down to 7 to 78. So we know that 7 to 52 is going to be prescribing a augment it to a affix which has a sanya of ardhadhatukam and begins with a val letter of the val pratyaharaha. Okay, so 7 to 52 says vasati Kshudorit, which is very straightforward sutram. Now the question is, why does Panini again say it? We just mentioned the anuvritti of it is going down all the way from 7 to 35. The reason is that from 7 to 44 in the Ashtadhyayi, Panini starts a vikalpaha, an optional prescription of the augment it. But here in this sutram 7 to 52, Panini wants to make a invariable prescription, means no optionality of the augment it. That is why he repeats it again to tell us that this is not an optional prescription. So the Kashika says punar idgrahanam nityartham. Okay, now what does the sutram say? The vritti says abhyang kitva nishthayor nityam itsyat. Anuvritti of Ktva nishthayoho is coming down from 7 to 50. So the meaning is, when following the verbal root vas, which is vasa nivase from the bhvadiganaha, or kshuza vukshayam from the divadiganaha, the affix ktva as well as nishtha necessarily takes the augment it. We of course know what nishtha means by 126 ktaktavatu nishtha. The two affixes kta and ktavatu get the nishtha sanya. Now why do we need this sutram? Could we not just use 7 to 35 ardhadhatukasye valadehe? Because we know that the affix ktva as well as kta as well as ktavatu, they all have the sanya of ardhadhatukam, and after removing the it letters, they all begin with a letter of the val pratyahara. The reason is that both these verbal roots vasanivase as well as kshudab vukshayam have a anudata swaraha in the dhatu partha, and of course they also have only a single vowel in them. So therefore 7 to 10 ekacha upadeshe nudatat prevents 7 to 35 from applying the augment it to any affix if the affix follows one of these two verbal roots. So that is why this sutram now comes and says, if that affix is either ktva or a nishtha affix, then it necessarily takes the augment it when following one of these two verbal roots. Right now what do we have? We have the verbal root vasanivase from the bhvadiganaha. We are adding the affix ktva using the sutram 3, 4, 21. Samanakartrikayoho purvakale. We do have actually three actions here. We have prapya, then ushitva, and then abhijayate. So among these three actions, the action prapya, having obtained, is the first action, then ushitva, having dwelt, second action, then abhijayate is the third action. So since ushitva is the action prior to the action of abhijayate and the doer is the same, therefore we can use the affix ktva as per 3.4.21. Samanakartrikayoho purvakale. So we get vas plus ktva, remove the beginning kakara of the affix ktva, which gets its sanya by lashakva tadjite, then tasya lopaha. Now at this point we bring in the augment it to the affix tva by this sutram 7252, because we do have the verbal root vasa nivase. The note here says that in the absence of 7252, the augment it would not have been possible here, because 7210 ekacha upadeshe nudatat would prohibit 7235 ardhadhatukasyeed maladehe. So that is why 7252 is required. And of course, as per 1146 adyanta utakitau, the augment it joins at the beginning of the affix tva. Now we remove the ending letter t of the augment it, which has the itsanya by 133 halantyam and then tasya lopaha 139. At this point, we want to do a samprasaranam in place of the vakara of the angam vas. Samprasaranam is prescribed in this case by the sutram 6115. Vachi swapi yajadinang kiti. This verbal root vas, vasanivase, belongs to the yajadi list, which is the last 9 verbal roots in the bhadigana. But that requires the pratyaya, the affix, to be a kit. Now we do have a kit affix ktva, but remember 1 to 18 naktva set removes the kit property of the affix itva, because the affix ktva has now taken the augment it. So now what do we do? To retain the kit status of this affix ktva in this case, we have to take the sutram 127, which reads mrida mrida gudha kusha klisha vada vasaha ktva, which says that even if the augment it is added to the affix ktva, it still remains a kit in spite of 1 to 18 if it follows one of the verbal roots listed in 1 to 7. So that will be our next sutram 1 to 7. So we can complete this form ushitva.